The movie starts with John waking up and turning on his device to play PUBG online, as he usually does every day. But then one of his friends says to the others, "Did you see what's happening on TV?" At that moment, John gets up to turn on the TV to find out what's going on in the country. But then the signal cuts out on the TV, and he hears the sound of people screaming outside on the street. John goes to the window and opens it to see what's happening in the street. He is shocked when he discovers that people in the streets are violently attacking each other and even eating one another. He's baffled by what he's witnessing. At one point, a girl attacks her mother and starts eating her in a gruesome, unbearable scene. All the while, John can't understand what's happening outside and tries to grasp the situation. He grabs his phone but finds that there's no internet signal. He then goes to his apartment door when he hears a knocking sound. There, he opens the door to see who's outside, and he's surprised when his neighbor rushes into his apartment, asking to stay with him. But John completely refuses, trying to push his neighbor out because he's afraid the same thing that happened to the people in the street might happen with him. However, his neighbor explains that his brother turned into a zombie and begs to stay in John's apartment. John still refuses, but then agrees when his neighbor asks just to use the bathroom and promises to leave right after. At that moment, John turns on the TV and hears the news reporting that a massive infection has spread throughout the city, turning people into zombies. The reporter then talks about the symptoms of this infection, saying that it causes extreme violence in human behavior. The infection starts with a headache, mood changes, and even bleeding from the eyes. Afterward, the skin begins to change color, and the person fully transforms into a zombie, attacking other humans. And the most important characteristic of them is that they don't just attack humans, they actually feed on human flesh and eat it completely. The news warns people that if they see anyone like this, they should either kill them or quickly escape the area before getting infected. At this point, John remembers the neighbor who went into the bathroom. He quickly goes to the drawer to grab a knife, and as soon as his neighbor comes out of the bathroom, John points the knife at him and orders him to leave his apartment immediately, or else he'll kill him. But his neighbor tries to explain that he's fine and nothing has happened to him, asking to stay with John for just an hour before leaving. However, John refuses and demands that he leave before he kills him. At that moment, John notices that his neighbor's eyes are bleeding, which means he's become infected and is turning into a zombie. John panics and keeps asking him to leave the apartment quickly, but his neighbor refuses and continues to stare at his bleeding eyes in the mirror. His neighbor is terrified that he's been infected and is starting to transform into a zombie. Then, his body begins to break down, with his bones cracking as the transformation takes hold. He starts attacking John, trying to bite him and turn him into a zombie as well. But John manages to push him away and quickly throws him out of the apartment, slamming the door shut. His neighbor tries to get back inside, but John strikes him in the face with the knife, successfully keeping him away before he can attack. John then looks through the peephole of the door and sees a massive zombie grabbing his neighbor and starting to devour him with terrifying ferocity and violence. John is horrified by what's happening around him in the world and stays hidden in his apartment, trying to keep safe. After that, John secured all the entrances and exits of his apartment. He moved the refrigerator in front of the door to prevent anyone from forcing their way in, even the massive zombie that just devoured his neighbor who had been with him in the apartment. John then goes to wash his hands and face, hoping that maybe he's dreaming or in a movie. But each time, he realizes that everything happening around him is now a reality that he must face. Afterward, John tries to contact someone, either his friends or his family, but he can't reach anyone. There's no network signal on any of the phones, and all the lines are dead. He receives messages from his family, telling him that they are safe and urging him to stay inside, keep the doors locked, and never go outside again. They emphasize that he must protect himself and stay away from the zombies that are wiping out the entire city. After that, John turned on the TV to follow the situation in the streets and find out what would happen with the zombies that had taken over the area. The news warned the remaining citizens that they must stock up on food to last for 60 days, as leaving the house was strictly prohibited for the next 60 days until they found a way to eliminate all the zombies. John then started calculating how many days his food supply would last and tried to ration it to make it last as long as possible. He soon realized that the food he had would only last for 10 days, meaning he needed food for another 50 days. John then thought about taking the fruit seeds from the fruit he had and planting them to grow a new crop, but he realized that it would take too long, and he started feeling bored and frustrated. He also considered taking a selfie from his balcony with the zombies in the street. However, he saw someone else trying the same thing, only to fall from the balcony and become an easy meal for all the zombies below. Seeing this, John quickly dismissed the idea from his mind. John then noticed that many people were posting pictures and calling for help from the military and police to rescue them. He thought about doing the same and took a selfie. However, he didn't have any network coverage to post anything at the time. He then came up with the idea of using his drone to lift his phone to a higher location, hoping to get a network signal. He tried the idea and it worked. He found a signal and was able to see all the zombies in the surrounding buildings. But soon after, the drone's battery ran out, and it fell to the street. John, feeling frustrated and hopeless, returned to his apartment. John spends his days and nights looking out the window, hoping to see any military or police personnel passing by so he can call for help. One night, he sees a policewoman in the street, armed with a gun, trying to fend off zombies. All the police officers who were with her have turned into zombies after being bitten, and the zombies attack her in large numbers, eventually overpowering and consuming her, turning her into a zombie as well. John tries to scream at them to stop the attack, but the zombies pull her away and devour her. Her gun falls to the ground, and John thinks about going down to retrieve it, believing he will need it at some point. But his thoughts are interrupted by the sound of zombies trying to open his apartment door. They heard him yelling and have come to investigate the noise, finding the source of the sound. the hidden figure in the apartment. John runs to the door to try and prevent the zombies from getting in, but the zombies are too strong and manage to force the door open, gaining entry into the apartment. John quickly runs to the balcony and positions himself there to lure the zombies towards it. The plan works as the zombies follow him to the balcony. John then manages to push them off the edge, causing them to fall and die. John then returns to his apartment, securing the door more firmly with a hammer and nails to prevent anyone from breaking in and threatening his safety. He starts recording videos for his YouTube channel, where he talks about his experience with the zombies, how he's trying to survive, and reflects on the fact that he's still alive as a significant miracle. He even humorously considers himself a hero for having killed one of the zombies by chance. Day 7, John hears on the news that the infection is transmitted among humans through blood contact, either when one person bites another or when blood from one person mixes with another. Additionally, zombies are able to retain some memories, such as how to open doors, respond to sounds, and perform automatic movements from their previous lives. The news starts warning citizens to avoid any contact with zombies, especially to prevent them from biting or mixing their blood with theirs. It also informs them that zombies cannot smell, see, or hear well, so they should be cautious about actions like opening doors and windows. Soon after, John runs out of water, and the taps have also stopped working. With no water available, he begins to feel intense thirst and fatigue. Every day, John tries to record videos for his channel, sharing his daily experiences in the hope that someday someone will see his videos, find his location, and come to rescue him. Feeling increasingly desperate, John decides to drink all his whiskey, using it as an escape from the relentless zombie world and the uncertainty of his situation. He isolates himself from reality, gets drunk, and eventually falls into a deep sleep from exhaustion. While drunk, John would have hallucinations where he saw his parents returning to him and hugging him. However, as he began to wake from his stupor, he would realize that these were just illusions and not reality. The next day, John woke up from his alcohol-induced haze. He started thinking clearly again and decided to cover his windows to prevent the zombies from seeing him. He began observing the zombies from behind the covers, studying their movements and behavior to better understand how they acted. This way, if he ever found himself in a tight spot with one of them, he would know how to respond. Feeling overwhelmed by despair, exhaustion, and depression, John starts considering a plan to escape from his apartment. However, he receives a message from his family that cheers him up, informing him that they are safe and asking him to let them know he's okay. John tries to reply to them, but there's no network coverage. He then grabs a selfie stick and attempts to capture a signal by extending it out of the balcony. Unfortunately, the zombies below notice him and begin to shout, attracting more zombies who are eager to get to him. John, feeling utterly fed up with his current existence and on the verge of collapse, finally decides to leave his apartment. He grabs a golf club and starts killing any zombies he encounters along the way. He soon comes face to face with the neighbor who had previously sought refuge in his apartment. As the neighbor approaches, John, overwhelmed and on the verge of madness from the zombies around him, begins to scream at him in desperation. As John's screams attract a large number of zombies eager to devour him, he attempts to escape in the opposite direction. However, he is shocked to find that the zombies have surrounded him from all sides. He tries to use the elevator to flee, but discovers that zombies are emerging from every corner, including the elevator itself. Desperate, he continues to run, eventually coming face to face with a blind zombie that has no eyes. John tries to hide from the blind zombie until it passes so he can re-enter his apartment. He successfully makes it back inside, but hears the zombies trying to break through the door. Inside, John braces himself against the door to keep it shut. Eventually, he falls asleep from exhaustion. When he wakes up, he finds that all the power stations in the city have exploded, plunging the entire city into darkness. In his next video, John records a message for his channel, expressing his deep fatigue and hopelessness. He explains that he can no longer see any hope for survival, and the combined effects of depression and psychological exhaustion have driven him to decide to end his own life. John, overwhelmed by despair and depression, decides to end his life to escape the suffering he's enduring. He prepares a rope and goes outside to hang himself. However, he notices a red laser light pointed at him from the building across the street. The sight of the laser makes him reconsider his decision. He quickly unties himself and looks out from the balcony, spotting a beautiful girl standing across the street, signaling to him. She has been observing him throughout this ordeal. John feels a renewed sense of hope and relief, seeing that there is someone else out there who is still alive and well. The girl communicates with John using a laser pointer to highlight letters on a board, conveying that he is foolish for considering suicide. She signals for him to stay quiet and not speak out loud, as doing so might attract the zombies and cause them to come to their apartments and hunt them down. John tries to call out to her, but she urgently gestures for him to remain silent to avoid drawing attention from the zombies. Kim has set up her apartment with top-notch security to fend off zombies and is well armed for defense. She and John use tablets to communicate, exchanging written messages. When a zombie tries to breach her apartment, it falls into one of Kim's traps, and she promptly deals with it. As night falls and rain begins to pour, Kim and John take advantage of the rare rainfall by setting out empty containers to collect water, ensuring they have a good supply for drinking, as such rain is infrequent. Kim begins to explore the building where John lives, assessing the surrounding areas, apartments, and floors to identify which ones are occupied by zombies and which are not. She observes which floors have fewer zombies and which have more. As they get to know each other better, they attempt to exchange food. Kim throws a rope to deliver food to John, but it falls into the street. John uses his drone to retrieve the food from Kim and sends it back to her. However, the rope that fell into the street is found by a fireman who has turned into a zombie. Since zombies retain some memories, the fireman starts pulling the rope, which is attached to Kim's table. The zombie firefighter begins pulling the rope rapidly. The table hits Kim, and she falls unconscious. The zombie fireman begins to climb the rope to reach Kim's apartment. John sees this and tries to knock the zombie off the rope by throwing a vase, but it falls too far from the target. He decides to use his drone to distract the zombie, but the zombie grabs the drone and throws it to the ground. By this point, the zombie has reached Kim's balcony. Just as the zombie is about to enter, Kim regains consciousness, fights back, and manages to push the zombie off the balcony, killing it. Later that night, John, desperate for food, decides to venture out and search neighboring apartments for any supplies he can find, knowing that he needs to eat or he will die. John enters the neighboring apartment and discovers it is stocked with food, drinks, and all the supplies one might need. However, he soon finds the body of his neighbor's sister lying on the bed. As he turns around, he encounters the zombie neighbor who is now attacking him. John hides behind the neighbor's sister's body to escape the zombie's attack. He manages to run back to his apartment and quickly locks the door behind him. The next day, he eats the food he took from the neighbor's apartment and uses a wireless device to send food and a message to Kim, reconnecting with her. The next day, the zombies in the street start moving and enter the building where Kim is. While Kim is hiding, she accidentally knocks over a table, alerting the zombies to her presence. John quickly takes action by ringing the doorbell of the neighbor's apartment to attract the zombies away from Kim. This diversion successfully draws the zombies to the neighbor's apartment, saving Kim. John and Kim then communicate and ensure each other's safety, strengthening their bond as they continue to navigate the dangers of their new reality. John and Kim decide to leave their apartments quickly and try to escape from the zombies in the street. They prepare themselves for the escape. John fights his way down from his building, killing zombies in his path. Meanwhile, Kim takes a shortcut. She uses a rope to rappel down from her balcony and lands swiftly in the street. Despite being immediately attacked by a large number of zombies, Kim skillfully fights them off and manages to eliminate those who confront her. Kim falls face first on the ground but quickly recovers and fights off attacking zombies. Just as a particularly fierce zombie lunges at her, John arrives in time to kill it. He helps Kim up, and they both run together to escape. However, they are surrounded by zombies from all sides. Drawing on their inner strength, they fight valiantly to take down all the zombies in their path. They manage to clear a path and finally reach the building they were aiming for. When they reach the 8th floor, they are immediately attacked by a large number of zombies. John and Kim desperately try to find an open apartment to hide in, but all the doors are locked. John, overwhelmed and surrounded by zombies, fights fiercely to protect himself, pushing them back with all his strength. Just as the situation seems dire, Kim manages to open a door to one of the apartments and pulls John inside. They quickly secure the door behind them. Inside the apartment, they find a man who had opened the door for them. The man welcomes John and Kim, providing them with food and water. They introduce themselves and agree to stay together for mutual protection and survival. The man informs them that a large number of soldiers are patrolling the city by air to rescue any remaining survivors who haven't been infected yet. He reassures them that help will arrive soon. John and Kim, relieved and hopeful, embrace each other, finding new strength in the possibility of survival. Despite their renewed hope, they remain cautious and keep a close watch on the man, observing his actions closely to ensure he poses no threat to them. They plan to follow his lead while remaining vigilant, just in case. In this tense moment, John, still wary, discovers that the man has poisoned their food in an attempt to feed them to his zombified wife. John quickly recovers and threatens the man with the gun, demanding that he releases Kim before he takes any further action. The confrontation escalates as John and Kim work to free themselves and escape the dangerous situation. During the meal, John requested canned food, but unbeknownst to him and Kim, the man had poisoned the food. His intention was to feed them to his zombie wife, who was starving. However, John and Kim manage to regain their senses before the man can give them over. John threatens him with the gun he has and demands that he take Kim away from his wife before he kills him. At that moment, Kim asks John to kill her with the gun, as she is exhausted from life. John is also contemplating the same, feeling that they have both reached their limits. He decides to go through with it, planning to kill himself afterward. However, before he can do so, they hear the sound of airplanes flying over the city, rekindling their hope. They decide to leave and confront the zombies one last time in an attempt to reach the aircraft that will save them. They manage to reach the roof to see the airplane that was supposed to rescue them. But when they get there, they find that the plane is gone, likely having left them behind. Despair returns to them. Zombies then reach the roof, break through the door, and find John and Kim. John fights the zombies one last time before he and Kim succumb to their fate, shooting at them with the now empty gun. They begin to surrender to death. Just then, the plane reappears behind them, and the soldiers start killing all the zombies in front of them. John and Kim manage to board the plane and are rescued. The military saves their lives after they endured many difficult days alone, fighting against the zombies that had wiped out half of the city's population. At that moment, it's not just John and Kim who are rescued. Other survivors who managed to hold out and defend themselves until the army arrived are saved as well.